Me again. Well, I swear that this will be my last video on this subject. But yet again, the L87 Chevy engine has completely let down everybody. Now, I guess this other channel, Dave's Auto Center, recently got in a L87 6.2 liter GM engine, and with 4 miles, this thing has a connecting rod that literally snapped right below the pin on the piston. Which, I know it's been said many times, is pretty freaking insane. 4 miles on a brand new engine. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that this thing's made in Mexico, or it's made wherever, or the EPA's to blame. You know, the EPA doesn't call up Chevy and say, hey guys, you know what? Do you want to make your rods out of, I don't know, garbage material instead of what you've always used? Now, everybody's pretty quick to say it's all in the name of miles per gallon to keep the EPA happy, but why aren't they just building with aluminum rods then? That's going to be significantly lighter than the crap cast steel that they're clearly using. So I think right off the hop, that just debunked that whole little idea. And I have to say, what is going on at GM? Oh my lord. Now maybe it's just one of those things where it's hit and miss, but they just recalled like 1 million of these engines, which is insane. There is a lot of comments with people saying, well, you know, I got 100,000, I changed to AMSOIL, I switched to different filters, I did, several things I could do differently, and now I'm having better results, which is very possible. But a snapped rod is not oil related in the slightest. That is most likely, well, the only way that really happens is basically from revving it to the moon, which, I mean, it's going to be limited to a soft limiter of roughly 4,000 RPM is almost every single GM motor. That's anything 2007 and newer for that matter. So that really shouldn't be it. You can't money shift it because it's an automatic transmission. So what else could be the possibility? I mean, 4 miles, that's generally still within the dealership amount of mileage by the time you back it in and out a few times off the trailer to the showroom floor, get it prepped, and then out on the lot. That's normal. Most vehicles is somewhere around like 7 to 10 or 12 miles even for that. So 4 miles, in my opinion, that's still in the hands of the dealership. So I feel like it's one of these things where somebody that worked there most likely, and some might not agree, but most likely some lot guy or girl backed it off and thought, oh, look at this thing. Maybe did something crazy, but again, with the limitations that the computer has on these engines, you can't really get too crazy. So I'm kind of baffled at this one myself. And yes, there have been many comments, as like any successful YouTube channel, there is a long following of pure hatred towards this Dave's Auto Center. A lot of people saying that, oh, it's made up. They, smashed it with a hammer. They broke it themselves. They did it for views, which would make sense because it's all over everything right now. It's definitely news in the automotive industry today, and gaining a lot of traction for that matter. But I don't really think that that's even close to viable. This seems like it's more than possible all by itself with what we've been seeing lately. In fact, I'd like to show you some of my personal failures that I have sitting myself, which is slightly different than this. So I have this 454 sitting in a car. It dropped a bolt, and you can actually see where the screw is literally sticking up inside of the piston. Now, this thing was running. It sounded absolutely atrocious, but it's going to be fairly easy to fix. I've got this beautiful old 350 Chevy out of my Camaro, which has garnered myself a lot of hate online. I don't know if I agree with it, but anyway, it's basically rusted shut. Now, most people don't agree with me, but I think this is one of those if you know moments, and I've seen hundreds of cars with engines look like this because they don't have antifreeze in them. Other engines, like this 6-liter LS that did have antifreeze, are totally fine. One thing is for absolute certain, though, this whole fiasco is getting GM some pretty bad press. And this comes at a time when no one really needs bad press because there's enough crazy things going on in the world right now with looming tariffs on both sides or all sides of the border. including inside the border for that matter, potentially costing us 25+% on the everyday things we buy, never mind the automotive industry getting hammered, which is a whole nother story. So what exactly is going on with this new 6.2 liter? Because I had a 2016 2SS Camaro with a 6.2. That engine was absolutely amazing to me. I drove the crap out of it, brought it to the drag strip multiple times. No complaints. All I ever did was put oil and gas in it, drove it, and no problems. But yet, something's up with this new generation of 6.2, which is still LT based, and hopefully they figure out whatever it is. Clearly, it's just a bunch of things, because we've seen pictures and videos of ones being taken apart where the bearings are wiped right down to nothing with low mileage, which is generally an oiling issue. But now to see this with a snapped rod, you know what? I feel like it's kind of just a one-off thing. It's very possible that it could happen, but I mean, hey, maybe that's part of why we're seeing bearings bad, because there's other parts of the engine failing and firing metal into the motor. Obviously, you know, a rod, you know, splitting in half, that's kind of a different problem. You know, windows in the engine block, it's not a good look, you know? Because when Uncle Rod comes knocking, it costs you some money. So I just thought I'd have a quick little wow moment, because I'm pretty impressed with how badly this new engine has managed to fail at several intervals, it seems. And it's pretty interesting because I just bought an EcoBoost, you know, very scared of jumping into the EcoBoost family because of all the terrible things that have happened to that over the years. But now it sure seems like it just doesn't matter what you buy. There's a really good chance that something's going to break if it's on a new vehicle, as we just keep seeing over and over again. I don't understand it. I don't think anybody does. I don't even know if the people working there understand it, because clearly, if they did, it would be rectified. And it's not happening. So here's to them figuring it out and getting it right before more overseas brands like Hyundai and Kia move in and just sweep away more market from North America, like we've kept seeing, as now those are kind of some of the number one selling cars. And I had an Elantra. It was actually great. I borderline loved it. It was a wicked car. I put on literally almost 100,000 miles. I didn't do a thing to it other than, change the oil, put brakes on it, fire gas in it. It got silly 40 miles to the gallon, crazy gas mileage. You know, it's not a wonder that people are moving to those brands more and more often than ever. But I will say that I did have an interesting experience when I did have my 16 Camaro that had a 6.2, different slightly than what this L87 is, more aggressive camshaft, all those things, but still, you know, 6.2 LT1 based, new generation of Chevrolet small block V8. And in the cold, that car really did not like starting. I did not have a block heater. I never put one in, never used it, didn't care because it really didn't get winter driven. But there's one year that I kind of winter drove it, and it was, it had snow mode, which was great, but it was essentially a toilet in the snow. It was a terrible idea to drive that in the winter. Sure, it was fun to, blast around corners and do silly things or donuts in a parking lot, whatever, but it was absolutely not a practical winter car by any stretch of the imagination. However, back to my point, starting it in the wintertime was a disaster. And it was normally like, it looked like a 12 valve start video. That's what it looked like. It looked like a 12 valve cold start video every time I tried to use the thing. But one time, it just kept going and going and going. And I guess with the direct injection that these 6.2s have, it fires a pile of fuel into the engine. So after a handful of tries and a dead battery, I tried to do some things myself. Still couldn't really figure it. I was starting to get pretty upset, actually. So pulled it all apart. Well, open the hood, you know what I'm getting at. And checked it over. Reeked like fuel. Pulled the oil stick. It had like a quart of... probably more than that, actually. Probably a couple quarts of gas in the oil pan. So at that time, it was still under warranty. It went to the dealership. They did their thing, told me, yeah, we fixed it, blah, blah. Charged me a couple $100, got it running. Yeah, it fired up, no problem. I get it home. It's cold. Same thing. Now I know what to expect. So what I'm thinking, though, is that no one knows, because his place is in Utah. It gets kind of cold there, not too crazy. But I'm wondering if this engine was in a cold climate and it hydrolocked itself. And that would mangle a rod if it did happen. So it's a possibility. I don't know. I'm just trying to play on, GM side here, because anything's possible. We're all quick to say, oh, it's garbage, it's crap, blah, blah, throw it, burn it, get rid of it, blow it up. But we don't know. And we'll never know. What is for certain is that this engine is causing a lot of issues, and it is clearly not resolving itself anytime soon.